Welcome, everyone, to another special episode of The Final Cut. And it is Mark, the Movie Man, here. We are celebrating 10 years on the YouTubes. Old man of the YouTube am I. And today, once again, we are doing this special co-review series of episodes. And tonight, I have my buddy Doc. You've heard his voice on the spoiler room. If you haven't, go listen to those episodes. Shame on you. But he's here with us tonight. Hello, Doc.
Hello, how are you doing, Mark? It's good to hear from you again.
Yeah, it's like we were just talking.
It's true. Not like we were just talking for 20 minutes. No, not at all.
No, not at all. And tonight, as with all these co-reviews, I had my guest pick the film. And, and yeah, what's the film that we're going to talk about tonight, Doc?
Well, the film I picked is one going back to, Mark and I have known each other for a while. We used to sit around during spring breaks and things like that and stay up all night and watch movies, and Mark would go rent things, I would dig things out of wherever I could dig them out of, I don't know. And one night we started the whole experience out watching a movie called The Undertaker and His Pals, the 1966 gore comedy classic. And again, I'm going to say classic because I mean it. I'm not being sarcastic in any way, shape, or form. This movie's a lot of fun.
This is a lot of fun, and it was one of those nights. Another night, we watched another film with a similar title, Igor and the Lunatics.
Yeah, I'm looking for my copy of that right now because I want to watch that again.
I've got that on VHS. I just happened to watch that recently.
I had it on VHS.
So
concept.
The Undertaker and His Pals. Did you want to give a synopsis of it, or should we try to read it off of the IMDb?
I think I can summarize this reasonably well. It's the story of three businessmen who are experiencing some rough times. One of them is our namesake Undertaker. His pals run the Greasy Spoon. That's the name of the cafe. They're subtle in this regard. So they come up with a little business proposition where they go and find some business, shall we say, for both of them. One gets a dead body, the other business gets some fresh meat.
Yes. And we see how that plays out in two detectives trying to solve all of these murders while eating at their favorite spot, which happens to be the Greasy Spoon. That's as much spoilers as you're going to get, folks. But let's just say this film, is a lot of fun. Doc, what's one of the things that really appeals to you about this movie?
I remember, and even when watching it again for this, I remember how right away, even though there's some dread that builds up and a little kind of creepiness, almost right away they let you know, yeah, we're going to be playing, having some fun with this. The first woman that we see get attacked is writing a letter to her sailor boyfriend. She's got a picture of him on the end table right next to her. And during the course of the situation where she's attacked, the expression on the picture of her boyfriend changes. So it goes from just the normal kind of cheerful, hey, I'm taking a picture that they're going to put on my girlfriend's thing, to, oh no, what's going on, to outright shock at the end. And they don't make it subtle most of the time. They're clearly doing a close-up on the next picture, but it's that right away going, yeah, we're not being completely serious here. Don't worry about it. And throughout the whole thing, there is, even when it's being very subtle at times, when it's being funny, they will occasionally just kind of turn almost and wink at you to go, it's okay, we're just playing, don't worry about it, it's just a movie, and just have fun with it and let it go. Don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about it as well, is that it starts off and just saying, no, don't take us serious, folks. Please don't take us serious. We're having fun. And what gets me is this film was from 1966, because
yes.
it to sound a little cliche and old man, because that's what I am. It felt just a little before its time as far as this type of horror comedy goes, as far as how they handled it. It felt like it was definitely a godfather to some modern horror comedy that we got. Would you say that, Doc? Is that it kind of gives you that feeling that it was a little bit ahead of its time as far as what they were doing?
I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, there is an argument to say that that's the way you're supposed to watch Blood Feast, is that it's a knowing parody as opposed to just a awkwardly acted film. But Blood Feast, for the two of you that might be listening and uninitiated, the 1963 film by Herschel Gordon Lewis, hero of heroes, that started the gore genre, for lack of a better expression. It's not that it was the first film to have gore. It was the first film to go, we're going to have a lot of gore, and you're going to kind of be grossed out about it. But you know what? You guys are tired of looking at naked women, so now we're going to show you blood. And just 3 years later, you've got this film that pays off in a lot of ways for that. It's very tightly edited often when it comes to those effects. But it uses them very well, and there is also a clip of some actual surgery used at one point, which has its own stomach-turning qualities, shall we say?
Yeah, that's where I think part of the budget was just for the stock footage of the surgery for the film. The characters are having fun. They're over a bit exaggerated. You can see kind of those influences from the 50s horror films in these characters, but they're playing it up, and they've got running shticks as well. And it's evident even on the cover of the DVD or VHS or whatever. They have what the special of the day is. And
Yes.
you've got to pay attention to that and to it's a great shtick, and it's subtle. It's subtle in the fact of they don't fully draw your attention to it. It's there, but it's not like, oh, look at this. It's just a natural conversation. But there's stuff like that throughout this film where there's the comedy is just a little more subtle, to where they're putting this joke in, and if you catch it, great. If you don't, oh well.
It is a very interesting mix of some very dark, very subtle humor, and then some very broad, very obvious humor. It's almost as if, in some ways, they were afraid the audience wouldn't accept just this really, really dark film, and just had to make sure that they kept brightening it up. And realistically, at the time, we've got a lot of those Poe films or the horror comedies with Vincent Price and Peter Lorre and Boris and Basil Rathbone and that too. So it's almost as if they were picking from some of those influences. The Private Detective is clearly a parody of TV, Private Detective. So there's a lot of things going on. He doesn't really detect anything. He can't even detect his buddies at the restaurant are up to anything. He's very oblivious to anything apart from women, and even that he's not real good at. But so there's a lot of different things going on. The downside to some of that is because they have all these different little jokes going, sometimes they're not very well defined, or they don't flesh out in fuller ways like I kind of remembered. There was a lot of things where I remembered it being a much tighter or a fleshed out sequence, and you go, wow, okay, that gets over already. Okay. On the plus side, it doesn't wear out its welcome, and in 63 minutes, you don't really have time to wear it welcome out. If you do, you've really got a problem. But at the same time, there is a lot of room where they could have stretched it out, done some different things, added to the darkness a little bit. But man, the Undertaker is just so funny.
He's a hilarious character, the Undertaker. And I do agree. You do feel kind of the rush of the limited budget of the film, because we're talking 66, folks. So we're not talking video at all. We are talking film, which is definitely expensive, especially colored film.
Got to make sure the gore looks bright and red.
You got to look bright and red. And the guy who they got to play the Undertaker actually would go on to a couple more, including famous The Corpse Grinders, Ray Dennis. And he's hilarious in here as the title character of the Undertaker. Folks, to sum it up, you shouldn't take this film seriously, but don't let the fact that it's from 1966 turn you away from it either. I would say that it's a little bit ahead of its time and unexpected, but it's fun. Doc, who would you recommend this to?
Um, if you've got an interest, especially in the history of cinema, especially when it comes to horror comedy, or anything like that, this is definitely something you should spend the hour on. It's something you're probably going to find something you enjoy, whether it's like so jokes that are a little ahead of their time. Is it a little dated occasionally? Yeah, it's 1966, so there's going to be the occasional element where you're going to go, ooh, but by and large, it's still, I think, holds up very well. It does what it does very well, and yeah, I think anybody of that mindset that's going to give it that kind of time is going to find out at least a laugh or two in it worthwhile out of that 63 minutes. It's a lot of fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun. It is the precursor to your trauma films, which would go on later on and be a little more blatant in their horror.
You would take it up an extra step. This is true.
Yeah, it takes it up an extra step there. But yeah, I would recommend it to that too. If you're looking for some kind fun, classic horror type thing, horror comedy that's got a bit of the extra gore. If you want to see kind of influences, if you look through this film, you can see influences both of horror of the past and how this influenced some of the horror films later on. Some people watched it, and yeah, the runtime alone, I mean, it's on Amazon for like $2, and it's only like 63 minutes, so it's not like you're gonna be feel like you wasted a whole bunch of time. It's like consider it almost like a pilot episode for a show.
Sure. Yeah.
If you want to think of it that way, that's how much time you really can invest in this, and I think you'll enjoy it, especially if you enjoy the horror films from that time period. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you, Doc, for joining us on this special co-review of The Final Cut. Why don't you tell folks really quick, you're involved in a couple of things, and if they're in the Great Cheesehead State, where they can find you at?
Oh, okay. One of the main things that I spend a little time every month doing is live readings of Shakespeare in public. I'm part of the Shakespeare Raw group that operates the Best Place at the former Pabst Brewery area, downtown Milwaukee. And July 11th through 13th, we'll be doing The Tempest. What we do is we have the scripts edited down to about an hour and a half, 2 hours in length, and we pick character names out of a hat at the beginning of the show. So every night has a slightly different cast, and every night we play different characters. So we don't really get a chance to get good at anything. And at the same time, it really stretches our improv skills in a lot of different ways, because even if we're familiar with the material, you've got to make sure you've got a character and a style ready to go so that you can entertain people. And usually it's a lot of fun. And The Tempest is a pretty fun play, so this one we don't have to even take history and try and make it fun. We can just take fun and make it fun. And then also like the Thursday after that, because I'm an idiot and I can't not just stack everything and do it all at once, I'll be in Madison performing at a burlesque show. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet, but I kind of got a hunch, and I think a frog is going to be involved. And that sounds a lot creepier out of context now that I've said it out loud.
That's perfect. I love it. I love it.
So there's that. But yes, I get around. I was a contestant in Burley Picks 2016 this year. We didn't win anything, but I had a lot of fun, and it was a great show. So I get around. Go look for Professor Thomas Tennant on the Facebook and see what I'm up to next.
There you go, folks. Professor Thomas Tennant. It is Doc. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, folks, as always, keep that ticket stub. Actually, you picked Igor and the Lunatics.
No, I didn't.
I looked in the messages. It said Igor and the Lunatics.
Not the last time I checked.
I thought it said Igor and the Lunatics.
Wow, this episode got fun real quick. That's also a good film, though. Just not one that I watched recently.
I thought for sure you said Igor and the Lunatics.
Is that what you just watched, my friend? Oh, this is even better.
Oh, I may just keep.
Now you're making me double check because now I've second guessed myself.
I may just keep this.
See, Mark is now so old he can't remember what I messaged him anymore.
Yeah, you did. It was Undertaker and His Pals. Son of a bitch.
I'm not losing my mind.